Off to the top story we go, and President Bongbong Marcos has released a list of 15 contractors handling the most number of flood control projects in the Philippines. Marcos said these contractors received nearly 100 billion pesos, or 20% of the government's over 545 billion peso infrastructure fund for flood control from July 2022 to May 2025. Marcos said this when he launched a website that allows citizens to track and report flood control projects.
We have to clean our ranks. This is it might be a little painful. Baka masangkot dyan yung mga tao na malapit sa atin. Ngunit kahit malapit sila sa atin, mas malapit naman siguro sa puso natin yung taong bayan. Kaya sila ang unahin natin. Ang lalapitan na ngayon ninyo, ako mismo. Dahil akong titingin dito araw-araw sa website natin at babasahin ko ang mga report na ibibigay ng taong bayan.
Meanwhile, Senator Joel Villanueva has messaged those linking him to alleged anomalous flood control projects. Bulacan, which is Villanueva's bailiwick, emerged as the province with the most flood control projects in the Marcos's list. Villanueva said, or rather denied, that senators are involved in these contracts.
Kailangan ang apology. 3 taon ko na po ito binibring up, if you would recall, in the hearing of Senator Bong Revilla 2023, 2024, at hanggang ngayon po, binibring up natin. Tapos nababaligtad pa po tayo na ito daw ay napunta sa Bulacan, at pag napunta na sa Bulacan, may kalokohan na, at pag may kalokohan na, si Joel Villanueva. I can only speak for this house, not the other house, and as far as I'm concerned, as the majority leader of the Senate, I don't see any senators involved in any of these 15 construction firms.
Meantime, Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto also called out his rival Sara Diskaya, whom he ran against in the 2025 midterms, for the inclusion of her family's companies in the president's list. The companies named that were allegedly linked to them were Alpha and Omega General Contractor and Development Corporation, as well as St. Timothy Construction Corporation. Soto accused these firms of involvement in what he called the 6 stages of corruption in flood control projects, including the alleged sketchy bidding, substandard work, hidden fees, tax evasion, and using stolen funds to gain political influence. The Philippine Coast Guard says one of its vessels evaded a water cannon attack while escorting Filipino fishing boats in Bajo de Masinloc, or Scarborough Shoal. The incident happened during a Kadiwa supply mission amid dangers blocking maneuvers by other vessels. The mission also saw a collision between a Chinese Coast Guard ship and a People's Liberation Army Navy warship. The dangerous maneuvers happened on the same day President Marcos addressed China's protests over his statement last week, and recall that he said that the Philippines will have no choice but to get involved should a U.S. and China conflict erupt over Taiwan, to which China lodged a protest.
I don't know what they're talking about. Playing with fire? I was just stating facts. We do not want to go to war. But I think if there is a war over Taiwan, we will be drawn. Hihilain tayo sa aya't gusto natin. Kicking and screaming. We will be drawn and dragged into that mess. I hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, we have to plan for it already. Never. Never. We do not back out because natakot tayo, umatras tayo. Sinong Pinoy na gusto magkagera? Kahit yung sundalo, kahit yung Coast Guard, ayaw nila ng gulo. But at the same time, we have a duty to perform, and that is to defend the country. So no, we never back down.
Severe tropical storm Goryeo maintained its strength as it continued to move over the Philippine Sea. Goryeo was last spotted 1,180 kilometers east of extreme northern Luzon, and it may reach typhoon category within the next 12 hours before exiting the Philippine area of responsibility by Wednesday evening. Pag-asa says Goryeo is not likely to directly affect overall weather within the next 3 days, but still, localized thunderstorms and the southwest monsoon or habagat will bring rains over parts of the country. And joining me today, we have Storycon's resident political pundit, Ronald Llamas, who is still, as you can see, in his vehicle on the way here. Hi, Ronald. Can you hear me?
It's Abby.
Asan ka na?
Good afternoon. It's barely moving kanina dito sa Cubao, Kramet. Buti ngayon medyo makaandar na pero dito na sa Shobuli.
Oo nga, at least mukhang umaandar na ngayon. And also, of course, from the Philippine Star, we've got Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Hi, Reg. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Hi, Ronald. Malapit ka na dyan sa studio, Ronald.
Oo.
Yeah, sana. Kanina hindi umaandar ng Ed.
Wala si Ed today.
Sana yung outlook kasi kulay ng iyong suot.
Kaya madilim. Kaya makulay ako.
Oo. I like
Monday
I like Ami's strategy. Pag madilim, you gotta wear something bright.
Kailangan makulay. Saka masaya pag Monday, masaya.
Akala ko nagsuot ka ng makulay because of we had a rare press conference from President
Yes.
Marcos today.
Kulay na press con.
Oo.
Oo nga.
Napaka-rare
Sumbong
nun.
mo kay Pangulo. Di ba parang gaya-gaya yun
Oo nga. Ano yung website kay former president?
Sumbong mo kay Pangulo, sabi niya. Sumbong mo kay Pangulo.
Oo. So, ito na nga. Sumbong mo kay Pangulo, the website where you can search flood control and other government projects. You can see ano yung ongoing and how much it costs. And of course, the most important thing, people can report anomalies pag may nakita sila.
Yes. Pero Ronald, parang ang iksi ng listahan, ano?
Meron tuloy amin na senador na nagpaliwanag sa presinto. Ang bilis.
Sino yan?
Maganda yung ano niya, mahiya naman kayo. Okay, maganda naman eh. Ang iniintay natin actually, hindi lang yung mga contractor, kundi yung mga politicians.
Politiko.
Yes,
Politiko.
politicians. Dahil yun na nga, yung sinabi ni Ping Lacson naman, over the weekend naman, mas matindi actually yung sinabi ni Ping Lacson eh.
Oo.
Pinangalanan na nga.
Pati yung kanyang kapwa senador, nakasama sa minority, tinamaan.
Bato-bato sa langit,
Oo.
I mean, depende na lang who feels alluded to, right? Sabi niya, wala naman senators involved. But anyways, let me recap it for our viewers, so for the ones who did not tune into the press conference. So, amongst the big takeaways ni President Marcos, we're looking at the website pala right now. Ito yung sumbong mo sa Pangulo website that was launched. Anyways, amongst the biggest takeaways were Marcos said there were 350 billion pesos in flood control project spending that were initiated since July 2022, equivalent to about 6,021 projects out of 9,855. So 6,021 out of 9,855 projects that lacked details, that did not specify anong infrastructure or ang ginagawa dito. So parang there are questions there of what are these projects exactly? He said these lack details. And he said, he pointed to some examples wherein one barangay received the exact same amount of flood control projects as the other barangay. Sabi niya, it's impossible that one barangay, even if they are next to each other, have the exact same flood control project to the exact same amount with the exact same contractor. Meron din the figure that I mentioned earlier in the headlines, 100 billion pesos of the 545 billion budget from July 2022 were handled by only 15 contractors. He called this disturbing. We can bring up the list of 15 contractors. I'll just read them out quickly. Number one is Legacy Construction. Then you've got Alpha and Omega, St. Timothy, QM Builders, EGB Construction, Top Notch Catalyst Builders, Centerways Construction and Development, SunWest, High Tone Construction, 888 Construction and Supply, Royal Crown Monarch Construction, Wow Builders, MG Samidan Construction. Number 14 is LR Tiki Builders. And 15 is Road Edge Trading and Development. That is the list. I don't know if you can read it, but that is the list of the 15 contractors that President Marcos said received over 20% of the 545 billion peso budget for flood control since July 2022. So this is not just last year, but since July 2022, they've cornered about 20% of the total flood control. Now, even more questionable is 5 of these contractors had projects in almost all regions nationwide. So out of these 15, we have Legacy Construction, Alpha and Omega, St. Timothy, EGB Construction, and Road Edge Trading and Development that the president said had projects in nearly all regions across the country.
Pero Reg, kung malaki yung kumpanya mo, sasabihin ng mga yan, ano ngayon kung marami kaming kontrata?
Yeah.
Diba?
Oo. I mean,
and saka, the president emphasized na he is not accusing anyone. Yet.
Correct. So sabi
of
niya,
wrongdoing.
correct. So sabi niya, no accusations yet, but they said these are the projects that need to be looked into at this point. Now, shortly after the president's press conference, we have Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto singling out his rival, Sara Discaya's family. So immediately, shortly after, si Mayor Vico said that yung top 2 and 3, Alpha and Omega, and St. Timothy belong to the Discaya family, are owned and controlled by the Discaya family, even though they have divested, even though sabi daw ni Sara Discaya, she's divested from it. He says, later on in the post, he also says that it's not just these 2 companies that are controlled by the Discayas, there are other ones that use different names. So for instance, may Elite, I think it was Elite, yes. Elite Management, Elite General Contractor pala, St. Gerard, of course, which shot to fame because it was supposed to be in a JV with Miro Systems. Remember, the election provider? Tapos na disqualify, well, not na disqualify, but they backed out of that JV eventually. And then may iba pang names that Vico Soto revealed, saying that these are all owned by his rivals.
Actually, yung sinasabi ni Baguio Mayor Benji Magalong, di ba? Na yung mga politiko ngayon hindi na tinatago yung nila, yung link with contractors. Sila na mismo nga yung may-ari ng mga kumukuha ng kontrata. Although, of course, yung kalaban ni Vico lost to him, Pero yun ang sinasabi ni Benji Magalong naman, na pati daw yung mga nakaupo actually na lawmakers and some public officials, sila na may-ari they pick the project and they pick the contractor na pag-aari nila.
Correct. So, number 8, I think, number 8 on the list, you have SunWest, which has long been linked to Congressman Zaldi Ko. Once the chair of appropriations for the House. And of course, he has said that he's divested from it, but these reports persist na it's still controlled by him and his brother, who his brother is Christopher Ko, once also a congressman. Meron din isa pa. So there are other bombshells from this morning's press conference. The other one being that President Marcos showed a list of the top 10 flood-prone provinces. juxtaposed against the provinces with the most projects. Tingnan natin. And the disturbing thing about, well, that's the photo of his slide from this morning. I don't know if you can read it, but the top 10 flood-prone provinces, number 1 is Pampanga. And if you cross-check the list against the first one, only 4 provinces belong to the one with the most projects. So that's Pampanga, Pangasinan, Tarlac, and Bulacan. Bulacan topped the list of provinces with most project with 668 flood control projects. So okay, nasa listahan din siya ng top 10 most flood-prone provinces. Pero ang ibang provinces that are in the list of the most prone, for instance, Nueva Ecija, for instance, Metro Manila, Maguindanao, North Cotabato, Oriental Mindoro, Ilocos Norte, wala sa listahan ng provinces with the most flood control projects. Number 2 on that list with the most projects is Cebu. Number 3 is Isabela. 4 is Pangasinan, 5 is Pampanga, then Albay, then Leyte, then Tarlac, then Camarines Sur, then Ilocos Norte. We leave it to the viewers to connect the dots, I guess. Pero I mean, yun nga, as we did with the soundbite, si Senator Joel Villanueva, whose bailiwick is of course Bulacan, has already come out to say 3 taon na daw niya nire-raise yung issue and then nabaliktad pa siya. So I don't know exactly what that means. And now we have in the studio our resident political pundit, Ronald Llamas.
Mahalaga kasi yung sinabi ni Presidente na wala pa naman siyang konkretong akusasyon, pero may konkreto siyang pinresent na PowerPoint. parang mahirap po naman sabihin na walang kinalaman yung presentation mo, di ba?
Yeah.
Sa akusasyon. Siguro,
Hindi,
sinasabi
sabi
na niya,
yun yung pinag-aaralan nila mga projects and the companies.
sinasabi lang
Under
nila,
review.
wala pang formal na
Investigation.
nakasampang kaso, pero yung pinesent niya, isa niya indication ng problema. Pwedeng doon papunta yung mga kaso. Pagkaman dahil presidente siya, ayaw niyang sabihin kaagad. Pero kung ikaw ay political heckler...
Sinabi ba yung, hindi ko malaman, sino ba nag-iimbestiga?
The responsibility has been moved to DepDev, hindi na daw sa DPWH. So now it's DepDev, yung former NEDA, that's going to look at these, that's going to audit these projects. So
mahirap kasi na mag-audit DPWH na parang kasama dito sa mga pag-approve ng mga projects na ito. Parang medyo tainted ka eh. So dapat yung mag-iimbestiga...
Hindi lang medyo.
because they,
Bait mo naman.
although I come back to the fact that pati si DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan has said before na may mga insertions na hindi naman niya pre-propose, right? Which Congress approved. So, hindi naman entirely, I think, DPWH is in the hot seat here, but also Congress, who holds the power of the purse.
Pero pag sinabi mo
Matagal na
kasi
rin
hindi
tinuturo ng
entirely,
DPWH yung ano.
pag sinabi mo kasi
Matagal
Reg
na
na
rin
hindi,
tinuturo ng Congress yung mga congressmen.
ay lang,
Ay,
pag
naku,
sinabi mo kasi
DPWH
nga hindi
pala.
entirely, pwedeng partially.
Partially lang.
Partially
Partially
involved.
responsible.
Pero nakakatawa rin kasi yung sinasabi ni Senator Villanueva, wala akong kinalaman dyan. No? So, ang may kinalaman dyan, yung governor. Sabi naman ng governor, wala akong kinalaman dyan. No? So, sino may kinalaman? Yung mga congressman. Sasabihin ng congressman, wala akong kinalaman dyan. So, lalabas, wala palang may kinalaman.
Kaya
Baka
nga,
tayo meron.
tayo. Baka tayo.
Baka media.
Baka tayo.
So when you're exacting
But remember, si Joel Villanueva, he was one of 2 na, di ba, na-report na got the lion's share of flood control appropriations.
Yes.
Sa national budget.
Yung 142 billion daw na lumabas na insertions daw ni Senate President Jesus Escudero.
So,
Kaya titignan natin yun ewan ko, na-explain ba yun? Yun ang hindi ko matandaan. May explanation ba siya ron? Si Joel Villanueva?
hindi pa na-address, Ami. I mean, as far as I know. Although, yun nga, in today's press conference, he was denying any links to the the flood control projects, and in fact, he said none of the senators, he's not seeing any of the senators involved with these contractors.
Nakasobra naman yon pag sinabi niyang none of the senators are involved.
Oo nga.
Dahil
Sisemplang
bahagi
siya.
sila ng BICAM Bahagi sila ng BICAM at yung nature ng BICAM, doon nangyayari usually ang mga insertions. No? So parang duda lang ako na lahat ng senador ay have clean hands. Baka may kaunting putik, kaunting kwan. No?
Putik lang.
Ang problema kasi, yung nature ng insertions ay, di ba, Ami, hindi naman ganun ka-formal
Earmarking yun eh.
Hindi ganun ka-formal yun
Earmarking yun, sasabihin ko. Dito na lang yung project natin kasi hindi mo naman sasabihin, malapit kasi yan dito sa negosyo ng pamilya ko, gano'n. Di ba? Maraming ganyan eh. Gawin natin tong kalyen to kasi papunta pala doon sa beach resort ng isang may-ari ng isang lawmaker. Ganyan ang klaseng earmarking eh.
Di ba?
Wala kang record niyan, but if you put 2 and 2 together, saka na maglalabasan yan. And even if your family is not directly a contractor, pag ikaw yung namili, yun yung hindi na may bibigay sa'yo kasi yung pera from the budget. Ikaw ang mag-i-earmark kung paano popondohan yung mga project na pet project mo.
Correct. And that's why when they say, oh, I've divested from this company, parang that's not really an answer to anything. Kasi okay, on paper you might have divested, pero
Parang Ami, di ba yung
Yung
C5
influence
scandal dati, wala naman nakasuhan doon eh. Pero alam mo, kung sino ang concerned doon.
Sa
Dahil
C5.
alam mo kung saan papunta yung kalsada.
Kung kanino property,
diba? Yun lang ang malilink mo. Diba? Parang itong mga prime water, alam mo na nangyari yan under the leadership ng isang bilyar, no? Yung DPWH, na under niya yung luwa. Kung saan 100 contracts ang nangyari. So, baka hindi ganun kadali magsampa ng kaso, pero kung ikaw ay may kaunting logic, alam mo kung ano yung connection.
the problem with that is mahirap yan patunayan in court, right? Especially if, sinabi sa atin ni Mayor Magalong, walang papers dyan, walang signatures sa kung anong paper, walang smoking gun. So how do you prove that in court, right?
Libel.
That's,
Media. Maglalabas at makakasuhan sila ng libel.
so media na naman may kasalanan.
At tayo lang makukulong dyan.
tayo na lang. Because we're trying to connect the dots. Pero yun nga, there are a few voices that are speaking up about this na nga. Katulad ni Mayor Magalo, Senator Lacson, and Mayor Vico Soto. So it's good that it's all coming out.
Pero hinamon si Magalong na humarap sa Congress. Magpakita
Show
ka
your
ng
evidence.
pruweba.
Sabi niya he's ready.
Yeah,
Meron siyang
yeah.
ebidensya,
Yeah.
sabi niya.
Oo. Ganun din ang media. May ebidensya rin.
Ikaw lang yung nagko-connect. but
But it's significant that President Marcos called a press conference.
correct. Oo, it's a very rare
Diba?
thing. Hindi yata naintindihan ng lahat ng tao na how rare it is for him to hold a press conference like that. Kasi tayo, hirap na hirap tayo.
Kaya nga
sometimes.
kahit sabihin niya na hindi naman to akusasyon, alam mo naman, bakit ka nag-press conference ng gano'n? Di ba?
The medium is the
May
message.
PowerPoint pa.
Oo, maganda pa yung PowerPoint, which means it was
maganda.
prepared many days ago. Pero one thing that he also said that caught my interest is, sabi niya, usually his experience as a local governor, usually pag LGU ka, you prefer the local contractors. Which is why he's saying na itong 15 or 5 of the national contractors that had projects all over the country. Kakaiba. Disturbing daw.
Kakaiba.
Tama ba yun? They prefer
Yeah,
local
normally
contractors?
local ang gusto mo because you are giving you want to promote local business.
Actually, usually pinipili
and
dyan kung saan
employment.
yung profit margin.
So not necessarily, Pero I guess,
Saka ba
Ano ba
mas kikita?
ganun ba talaga yun? I'm sure there's
Lumabas ka na.
lumabas na ako sa kuweba.
Takay ba na naman?
I am sure there's some clean projects there. Hindi ba? Hindi ka naniniwala.
Attorney.
Okay, we have to pivot now because we have to bring in our first guest. We have with us Attorney Antonio Odi Bukoy. He's the spokesperson for House prosecutors on the impeachment. Good afternoon, Attorney. Thanks for joining us finally today.
Good afternoon, Attorney.
Good afternoon po
Good
sa inyo lahat.
afternoon, attorney.
Good afternoon po sa inyo lahat and thanks for having me.
Yeah, sir. We've been trying to get you for a long time, so thanks for
I know.
making time for us today.
Pasensya na.
First of all, kamusta naman po kayo? How's the morale at the lower house?
We're still in a fighting mood and a fighting stance because we have not given up on this crusade, if I may call it that, the crusade for accountability. So we're preparing for, hopefully, the Supreme Court would grant oral arguments, and more equally important is that for the Supreme Court to grant a status quo ante order. Considering that the Senate had already archived the articles of impeachment.
I'm guessing most of the prosecution panel members were caught off guard by the Supreme Court's decision. Tama po ba?
Tama po. We were actually surprised, frustrated, and dismayed by the decision.
Attorney,
Yeah.
siyempre, yung nilabas niyong MR ay napaka-surgical, napaka-comprehensive at napaka-compelling. Pero
Yes.
the nature ng dismissal ng Supreme Court ay parang leaves others less hopeful and more pessimistic, no? Pero kung
Opo.
sakali na sabihin ng Supreme Court na hindi nila nire-recognize yung MR in spite na very compelling ito, ay anong mangyayari halimbawa sa prosecution? I-disband na yan? Halimbawa, kayo, you are the spokesperson of the prosecution. Mag-retire na ba kayo as spokesperson?
Depende ho kung ano yung kasunod na magiging hakbang ng prosecution panel. Pero to be practical about it, wala na humaging papel ang prosecution panel unless or until the articles of impeachment are refiled upon the expiration of the one-year bar period.
Di ba ang hirap, attorney, na para dun sa susunod na impeachment dahil ang dami idinagdag ng Supreme Court na requirements dun sa Article 11 at mismo sa rules nyo. So,
Correct.
yes, it is still possible to file, pero it's less probable dahil nga dun sa ginawa nilang, can I call it judicial legislation no? ng
Yes.
Supreme Court?
Calling a spade, yes. It's judicial legislation. It's not just an overreach. The Constitution was amended. It was rewritten. It was mangled.
Attorney, kung sakasakali mag-reverse ang Supreme Court kasi hindi naman, anything is possible, no? Kung sakasakali man yan, sa tingin nyo, may pag-asa ba sa Senate? Kasi ang takbo ng thinking, if we are going to go by the statements of the senators, talagang wala silang interest na mag-trial. At ang sinasabi nila, ang main argument nila actually is that it's not about accountability, it's more daw of a political move. Let's call a spade, it's a political move by your speaker, the Speaker of the House, against Vice President Sara Duterte dahil gusto daw niyang i-eliminate as a rival for 2028. Ano po yung tingin nyo sa ganong sentimiento? And does the prosecution feel burdened by this?
Number one, yes, we feel burdened by this. Pero let me be clear that the articles of impeachment was not a machination of the Speaker of the House. It is a legitimate, verified complaint by no less than 215 members of Congress, which is way past the threshold of 1/3, which is 102 more or less. Second, if the Supreme Court reverses itself and allows trial, there's another hurdle for us to contend with. What would this be? This is the archiving. Had they just deferred, had they just deferred on the motion that was sponsored by Senator Marcoleta, should the Supreme Court uphold or grant relief to the motion for reconsideration, all that the Senate has to do is to reconvene as an impeachment court, and the articles will be there. But with the current state, it's in archive. It will take another two steps, the decision
Yeah.
imposed two more layers. There should now be a motion to revive the articles of impeachment, and they have to vote on that motion.
Yes.
And they now need, again, a majority vote. What does
Yes.
this say? What does this say? Instead of being a political action, political because this relates primarily to the injury done by a public official to society itself. It is to make the public official who has gone beyond the bounds of ethical and legal conduct be accountable. Ngayon, should the voting not garner the majority to revive the articles of impeachment, then there's another issue. Does that mean we have to go back again to the Supreme Court to order them
Yes.
to follow? So all these legal maneuverings, which was never a consideration in the Constitution, which plainly laid down the process of impeachment, made it as simple as possible, they've become so complicated now, in such a way that the reality is you can no longer, or it would be doubly difficult to impeach an accountable officer. Dadaan ka ho sa butas ng proverbial, butas ng karayom. Wala nang mai-impeach kasi dahil naging weaponize yung legal process instead of the political process of the impeachment proceedings. Every step of the way they will challenge it. Hindi na naman the impeachment process can hardly ever move forward, and they've seen that. We have seen that happen in the current proceedings. Every step of the way, they managed to subvert it. The Senate has managed to subvert and to defeat the people's right to accountability.
Attorney, very clear naman yung sinabi ng minority eh. Pwede ba nating i-defer yung voting
Correct.
until makapag-desisyon yung Supreme Court dun sa mga MR na nakafile? Very clear
Correct.
yun eh, di ba?
Tama po.
Ang sabi naman nila, together with the Senate President, hindi, magbotohan na tayo to dismiss. Until tumayo si Senator Ping Lacson, ano i-dismiss natin? Eh, hindi pa naman tayo nagko-convene as the 20th
Yeah.
Congress Impeachment Court, no? So,
Yes.
na-technical sila ron. Pero ang original plan nila is really to dismiss against the proposal of the minority to defer voting until the MR has been answered by the Supreme Court, di ba? Kaya talagang i-dismiss dapat nila. Ang problema, dahil nga mas marami sila na archive nila, which is another way of burying the impeachment, kulang lang yung lapida. Wala lang lapida na nakasulat kung sino yung inilibing, no? Kaya sabi nyo nga, 2-3 stages mas mahirap itong ginawa nila.
You hit it on the nail.
Yeah.
You're right in your observation that they did not reconvene as an impeachment court when they voted on the archiving. It is the impeachment court that can archive this, not the Senate as a legislative body. Tama ho kayo doon. And you're right. They added a third layer. So I stand corrected. Not just 2 layers, but a third layer. Kasi that will pose another issue that might be again elevated in the Supreme Court.
You said until the articles of impeachment are filed again in February. So should we take it to mean that the House will be filing the impeachment complaint once the time is up?
Yes. We are for accountability, so we will not let go. We have to make an erring official, the second highest official of the land, to be accountable for her malfeasances. Importante po yan. Otherwise, this will set a very bad precedent for accountability. Na imamaneuver mo lang, mamaniobrahin mo lang, i-delay mo lang, magsasawa ang tao, magsasawa yung prosecution, lusot ka na. Kaya hindi ho yun yung intensyon ng saligang batas eh. Hindi ho yun yung, it doesn't serve the purpose of accountability.
So attorney,
Pero
that
considering
means,
na
so
you have the same senator sitting there, and yun na nga, ulitin ko yung sinasabi nila, political move lang naman daw yan to eliminate the vice president as a presidential contender. Anong tingin nyo ng chances I mean, that's a 1994 vote, no? Dagdag na natin si Senator Lacson kung sakasakala, 1905. Mukhang hindi, mukhang medyo mahina pa rin kung sakasakala yung suporta sa Senado for conviction, ha? Siguro
Yes.
itutuloy nila yung trial, pero I think most of them have already made up their minds about this issue.
What is important is, even if we're facing such a difficult
Uphill battle.
situation, an uphill battle, ang importante ho, mailabas yung ebidensya eh. Because up to now, wala pa hong lumalabas na ebidensya. Wala pang paliwanag ang Vice President. So, kahit na kami, even if we refile, and like you said, 19 votes is very difficult to surmount. The important thing is, we lay out the evidence. Malabas po natin ang ebidensya. Ngayon, if they will still vote to acquit, lalo nilang binaon ng sarili nila.
so sorry, let me just ask a follow-up to that. So you confirmed that the House will be refiling in February, and I guess the prosecution panel is preparing for that already. Yung ebidensya, sir, you seem very confident that the evidence is strong.
The evidence is compelling, if I might stress. It is compelling. But there's another issue that we have to deal with. Because in the Supreme Court decision, sinabi ho
Tatanong ko sana yan eh.
ng ponensya that the impeachable offenses can only pertain to actions that she committed while Vice President. Hindi raw pwedeng isali yung previous
Yung
actions.
DepEd.
Correct. Hindi ho, kasama ho yung DepEd, pwede yan. Pero ang ine-exclude po nung desisyon, yung mga actions niya when she was Vice President, when she was Mayor of Davao. Why are these relevant? This pertains to fitness in office. Fitness in office or character of the impeached officer doesn't happen overnight. It builds up. It shows a pattern. It shows a tendency. Why did I raise this? Diyan ho relevant yung 2 billion na deposit joint account ng ex-President Duterte and ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Nagsimula ito when she was Vice Mayor pa lang. We're talking of 2 billion pesos of transactions that went through that joint bank account. Importante rin ito because nung mayor siya, she continued the extrajudicial killings in Davao. So what I'm saying is, ang character, ang fitness is not established overnight lang. It takes years to show the pattern of fitness and how it culminated in her current actions as Vice President. So yun ho, isa pang problema. And we also took that up in our motion for reconsideration. Yung exclusion of previous actions when she was not yet Vice President nor Secretary of the Department of Education.
And
Yun attorney, yung problema dito sa desisyon ng Supreme Court. Ang kanilang paliwanag sa kanilang press release ay hindi nila ina-acquit ang Vice President. Ang basihan lang daw nila ay procedures. Procedural yung kanilang nire-raise. Pero pag binasa mo yung 97 pages na desisyon, parang hindi lang procedures yung kanilang nire-raise. Para rin nilang ina-acquit yung presidente dahil pumasok sila dun sa mga binabanggit nyo na substantial issues. Kaya parang may contradiction dun sa ponensya na pinagbatayan ng dismissal.
You know, like ang glaring example niyan, yung binanggit ko yung past actions hindi pwedeng gamitin as impeachable offenses. Tama ka, Mr. Llamas, na they touched on the substance of the articles of impeachment, not just procedure. And impeachment should be based on, tingnan nyo dapat yung ebidensya, hindi yung procedure. Kasi ang importante yung katotohanan eh. It's the hunger for truth. Yun ang pinaka-importante. And this should not change the right of the people for access to the truth.
Does the House already have, you said the evidence was compelling, attorney, so do I take it to mean that the House also has evidence regarding this 2 billion peso joint account, tsaka yung evidence that the mayor, when she was mayor, that she continued the EJ case?
Yes, ma'am. We would not have, the articles of impeachment would not have been endorsed to the Senate had there not been solid evidence, compelling evidence to support and to prove each and every article.
Paano nakuha, sir,
Attorney.
yung account information? Did you go through AMLA? AMLAC pala, sorry.
I will not delve into the details po.
Okay.
Para may konti naman tayong suspense.
I don't like
And
suspense.
yan yung binabanggit ni dati former Senator Trillanes.
Trillanes.
But
Yes.
anyway, yung part nung Supreme Court decision, attorney, about the complaint that is deemed initiated, may nakikita ba kayong problema doon kung sakasakaling balak nyong mag-file ng panibago, mag-refile? Kasi baka maunahan kayo, di ba? Medyo na yung deemed initiated na yan in description. Are you seeing that problem? Kasi baka merong mag-endorse doon sa House,
Well, that's one of the scenarios that's possible. Kasi ang nangyari, under the decision of the Supreme Court, ang sinasabi nila, it is not the substance, it's the first to file. No matter
Yes.
how whimsical the first
Oo nga
first complaint filed, no matter how whimsical, no matter how capricious, no matter how weak, as
Yes.
long as it will stall, it will trigger the initiation.
The 1
of-
year.
It kills everything. So that's a situation that we are prepared for. We're preparing for, rather.
So alas 12 ng gabi, 12:01 ng February 6.
Magka-camp out na ho doon.
Grabe.
Yun ang malinong desisyon eh. Dahil
Baka
sinabi,
maunahan
yan ang malinong ng desisyon na tinake up namin sa MR na hindi ito priority in filing eh. The
Yan na.
House, hindi ho ba? The House has the discretion to file as many impeachment complaints
Yes.
and refer it to the Committee on Justice. It filed under the first mode. Okay, it filed under the first mode. Anyway, the Committee on Justice will conduct hearings and then they will make a report. And
Yes.
they will submit this to plenary. Yun ho yung pagbobotohan. Okay? Ang naging malaking problema ngayon, even if you file through the second
Kahit
mode,
alin lang.
na shortcut. Sinabi ng Konstitusyon, shortcut ito. You get 1/3, yan na yung articles. Diretso na sa Senado. Ngayon ho, under the present guidelines na sinabi sa desisyon, any future complaint that you will file on February 6, 2026 should strictly adhere to these guidelines.
Yeah.
So, mas mahirap ngayon mag-initiate ng impeachment under the second mode na dapat straightforward. Kasi ho, yung sa first mode, ang magdi-deliberate lang doon sa committee level. Ito ho,
Yes.
ang magdi-deliberate yung plenaryo. And then plus the 7 requisites na binigay nila na ang hirap po i-comply. Imagine, second mode na, may plenary deliberation pa, and then, bibigyan mo na ng kopya, ang lahat ng mga congressman, bibigyan mo ng kopya, ang impeach official, you conduct a hearing, and she should be present. She must
Kayo
be
na nga
present.
nag-trial,
Yeah, the trial is not in the,
Kayo na yung
in the
nag-trial.
House. It's in the Senate.
Well,
Attorney, kahit nabanggit nyo na napakahirap ng susunod na impeachment, kahit nabanggit ni Ami na napakahirap magkaroon ng impeachment court with the present composition ng Senado, it will be uphill. Ako, Attorney, naniniwala pa rin that there's such a thing as karma.
Yes.
No? Dahil, halimbawa, sa Congress, magkakaroon ka ng hearing uli sa Quadcom. Doon maraming lumabas ng mga ebidensya last year. Ikalawa, magkakaroon ka ng bagong ombudsman. na yung previous one ay
Yeah.
pinoprotektahan yung salin ng mga makapangyarihang mga tao. Malamang itong susunod na ombudsman ay hindi na
Ilalabas
ganun
na niya.
ka-protective dun sa mga taong nasa kapangyarihan. At using the salin as an excuse, pwede niyang pabuksan yung bank account ng Vice
Correct.
President. No?
Yes.
Pwede niyang within his mandate para gawin yon. At ikatlo, yung mga taong katulad ni Reg at saka ni Ami ay pwedeng dumulog sa isang higher court, the Court of Public Opinion.
Yes.
Kasama ng mga
Higher court ba yun?
mamamayan, higher court yun.
Natawa ko.
Without any prejudice dun sa pwedeng i-file ng Kongreso next year, ay pwedeng yung mga mamamayan ay pumunta sa kalsada at magkaroon ng sarili nilang People's Impeachment, People's
Yes.
Tribunal. Na itong lalabas na ebidensya ng Quadcom, lalabas na ebidensya sa ICC, lalabas na ebidensya sa Ombudsman, ay pwedeng doon nila ilatag sa mga mamamayan. No? Mas
Yeah.
political ang layunin nun. Kaya
Yes.
going into 2028, pwedeng yung iba dito makarma.
Well,
Tama ho. Kasi ito kahit na mahirap, kung hindi ito marerebisa ng Supreme Court, kahit na mahirap, tutuhugin pa rin namin to. We cannot give up on accountability. Dahil ang buong bayan ho ang maghihirap dito eh. Yung mga anak natin, yung mga apo natin, wala sila ngayon sa kanilang, wala silang paninindigan ngayon. Simply because wala pa sila or nandito man sila, they're too young. Ngayon, tayo po ang sisingilin yan eh. Later on, if we did not pursue this, if we did not enforce this, kailangan panagutin. Ang nagnakaw, panagutin. Yun ang mahalaga. Kaya kahit na ho mahirap, kung hindi irerebisa ng Supreme Court, tutuloy pa rin namin. Ilalaban pa rin namin.
sir, I want to come back to the rules and procedures. And can I have you comment on the conduct of now Senator Rodante Marcoleta? Because during the debate, the Senate debate, his whole argument was premised on the fact, according to him, that the House did not follow its own rules. And this is significant because, of course, he just came from the lower house. So meron siyang inside track on how these things should be conducted. So, for instance, he said na December 2, 9, 14, and February 5, yung first three impeachment complaints hindi inaksyonan, and then therefore it was archived altogether. That was deemed initiated because it was not referred to the Justice Committee. He also said the proceedings should have been considered terminated at the end of the 19th Congress. And then he also questioned bakit hindi daw nilagay sa order of business in the lower house. What was going through your mind when you were watching that? May mga, shouldn't he be right because he just, like I said, just came from the lower house?
He's misguided, he's misinformed, and I hate to say it, pinipilit niya yung mali. Kung nabasa ho niya yung articles of impeachment, kung nabasa niya yung reply namin, kung nabasa niya yung motion for reconsideration namin, kung chinek niya yung sarili nilang record, yung journal ng Congress, mali ng hundon, mali lahat ng sinabi niya.
Lahat, sir.
Lahat. Lahat ho mali.
Based
Factual basis, wala siyang factual basis sa mga sinabi niya at hindi ho ayon sa batas yung mga sinabi niya.
But he participated in the plenary, no? Sa
Ano
House.
po? I'm sorry?
During the impeachment, yung nag-deliberation sa plenary.
Okay.
Kasama po siya ron, hindi ba?
Well, dapat, nandun ho siya. Dapat nandun siya. Ngayon, kung nandun siya, dapat naintindihan niya. Nung sinabi, hindi pinagbotohan, hindi dumaan sa plenary, ibig sabihin, either wala siya doon, or hindi niya inintindi, or he refused to understand. Yun lang ho ang nakikita ko doon eh. Then, ang isa pa ho dyan, hindi niya naunawaan yung saligang batas at yung kanilang sariling impeachment rules. Pero most importantly, yung factual basis niya mali eh. It is not in conformity with the records of the House. Mali po.
Actually, attorney, during the Senate voting noong August 6, ay may 3 non-lawyers ang na-lecturean siya tungkol dun mismo sa rules ng Senate.
August 8
Yes.
yung voting.
August 6.
August 6 nag-caucus. August 8 yung voting.
And then August 6,
Ay, August
nag-voting.
6.
Yung voting.
August 6 ba?
August 6 voting.
Okay
Ano, naalala
okay
ko dahil yun
confused.
yung bombing ng Nagasaki eh.
That's right. Oo nga pala, sorry.
Well, nung sabi sa kanya ni Ping Lacson, parang hilaw yung pag-unawa ni Senator Marcoleta mismo sa rules ng Senate. Ganon din si Senator Ping and Senator Soto at saka si Senator Hontiveros. All of these three are non-lawyers, ha? Pero
Yes.
nauunawaan nila yung rules ng Senado. Nauunawaan nila yung Article 11 ng ating konstitusyon, no?
Correct.
Medyo mas madaldala nga si Senator Marcoleta as you experience naman sa House, no? Pero hindi naman to paramihan ng daldal eh. Parang Storycon lang yan eh.
Maliho yung
Sa
kanya.
Senate, understandable
yung
naman at
premises
least
niya
yung
mali.
ano.
I'm sorry.
Hindi, kung sa Senate, understandable kasi bago siya ron. Pero ang importante kung yung sa House, if he misread your rules, ayun, medyo significant yun, ano?
Yes. Kasi
Matagal na siya dyan.
kung miyembro siya ng Kamara, dapat nalaman niya kung ano yung actual na nangyari. Like yung hindi ni-refer yung tatlo na article na complaints sa Committee on Justice. Ang importante ang tinitigyan niya na timeline, yung 10 session day rule referral.
Yes.
Inclusion rather in the order of business. Kasi it doesn't go directly to the Committee on Justice. It goes first to plenary, including it in the order of business within the 10 session day period. Pasok ko yan doon, pati yung ika-4. So there was no violation of the 10 session day rule. Nung binasa doon sa agenda, unang tinukoy yung tatlong complaint, no? Na final ng akbayan, ng makabayan at ng civil society, ng clergy. And then sinabi yung ika-4. Ngayon, yung ika-4, meron ng 1/3, more than 1/3. So yun na, ayon sa Constitution, ang articles of impeachment, and this should now be transmitted to the Senate for trial, forthwith. So there was no longer any need for the 3 prior complaints to be referred to the Committee on Justice because superseded by the 4th na articles of impeachment na. And then, inaprubo ng plenaryo yon, yung motion ni Congressman Dalipe na i-transmit to the Senate yung articles, yung fourth impeachment complaint. And then they had a recess. Pagka-recess, nagbotohan muna pala, bago mag-recess, nagbotohan, they elected the public prosecutors. Then, session was suspended. Shortly thereafter, nung mag-resume yung session, nagkaroon uli ng motion si Congressman Dalipe. Sinabi na, in as much as the fourth impeachment complaint had already been acted by plenary and had been ordered to be transmitted to the Senate, ano pang gagawin mo sa tatlo? Nag-trigger na yung 1-year bar rule with the transmittal, with the approval by plenary of the fourth impeachment complaint and transmittal to the Senate. Ang fourth impeachment complaint ang nag-trigger ng 1-year bar rule, not the 3. Not the 3. So, hindi na kailangang i-refer to sa Committee on Justice. Kaya, in-archive na.
Oo.
In-archive na.
So, sir, are you saying, for that matter, are you outright also saying that mali yung basis ng Supreme Court? Because these are the very same facts that they based the judgment on. And a lot of people point to the fact that the ponente here was Associate Justice Marvic Leonen. And
Yes.
I just learned over the weekend from a UP law friend na usually yung ponente was the one who writes it and then all the other justices base it on that ponente.
Yeah.
Ponensya pala,
Ipapasa ho yan.
ponensya.
Ipapasa yan. I-assign sa isang ponente yan, susulatin niya, ipapasa yan sa mga justices, babasahin nila, they can either affirm it, they can vote in its favor, or they can write their separate opinion, or they can dissent. Okay? So, yun nung sinabi lahat ni Senator Marcoleta, yan din yung sinabi sa desisyon na pinupunan namin Yan yung sinabi na sinagot nga namin sa MR yan So, inulit lang niya. Now, sinabi namin sa Supreme Court na maliho yung inyong factual premises. Inulit pa uli ni Senator Marcoleta. So, it's either, again, hindi niya nabasa yung motion for reconsideration o hindi niya naunawaan or ayaw niya unawain.
Mahirap yun.
Kasalanan
One-
daw ng media.
One of the three. But we will...
Kasalanan ng media.
Kasalanan ng ni Ami.
Yung footnote ng ponente, ano yun eh. Di ba?
Oh, yeah, footnote.
The other network
Yung
na
Another story
nag-clarify
yan.
na.
That's another story altogether.
Buti na lang, di si Ami yung
Kayo
na-implicate.
kasi mga media, ayaw niyong unawain eh.
Okay, but we have run out of time today. Thank you so much for talking to us, and we hope to have you back, Attorney Antonio
Yeah.
Odi Bukoy, spokesperson for House Prosecutors. Salamat, sir.
Salamat, attorney.
Salamat din
Thank
sa
you,
lahat.
attorney.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. We'll hash out what he said siguro tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining Storycon today. I'm Pamintuan, editor-in-chief of the Philippine Star, and Ronald Llamas, a resident political pundit. Join us again tomorrow, 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay. We're One News, all sides, all the time.